Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in, being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. Now, yesterday we did not get a chance to hear directly from you with all of the funeral coverage, but today we're going to play some excerpts from the press conference that they had after the funeral, and I want to hear directly from you. So my online culture crew, get ready to share your thoughts and comments as we hear what's next after the great tragedy of Tyre Nichols. We'll have that conversation. Plus, we're going to be checking in with entertainment lawyer, Mr. James Walker, to talk about all things entertainment and so much more. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of today's conversation. And folks, a conversation we are looking forward to having, especially with you, my online culture crew. Folks, I want you to jump in and get ready to share with me all of your thoughts, because this has been a very, very emotional 72 hours over these past few days. We have seen and heard, and there has been so much conversation, and now it looks like the fight to continue to try to get some resolution to what we are seeing with the systemic issue of police brutality continues to be waged. And yesterday we shared with you just some comments from Attorney Ben Crump, Reverend Al Sharpton, and of course, from the great family of Tyre Nichols. But today, we wanted to share with you some comments coming from Vice President Kamala Harris, Attorney Ben Crump, and more, because after the funeral, these national leaders came together to hold a press conference to talk about what's next. What can we expect from the legal side? What can we expect from the legislative side? And so much more. So while we are sharing those comments with you, I want you to share with me, what do you think? Is this the right direction that we need to go as we look at not just the case of Tyre Nichols, but the cases of the hundreds of cases of police brutality that continues to be a real problem in the Black communities across this country. So make sure y'all join us. And we are streaming live right now on YouTube. We're streaming live on Facebook. And of course, check us out on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Again, that's blackstarnetwork.com. All right, folks. I want to start with some remarks that were made by Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, yesterday, we saw that Attorney Ben Crump had acknowledged her. She had mentioned that she wanted to be there for the family, and certainly as the first Black vice president, it was imperative, Black woman vice president, it was imperative that she made her appearance known, which she did. And some people think that that is a sign that we may see some progress. I want to get your take about that as well, folks. And of course, we will continue the conversation. But first, let me share with you what she had to say with yesterday's activities as we celebrate the life of Tyre Nichols.
Good afternoon, church. Reverend Sharpton, I want to thank you for all you do for so many. There are so many families here who have been personally touched by your leadership and your strength and your fellowship. Reverend Dr. Lawrence Turner, thank you for welcoming us. Keisha Lance Bottom, Mitch Landrieu. We are here on behalf of the people of our country and our President, Joe Biden. And we are here to celebrate the life of Tyre Nichols. Mrs. Wells, Mr. Wells, you have been extraordinary in terms of your strength, your courage, and your grace. And we mourn with you, and the people of our country mourn with you. And I I'm going to be very brief. Mothers around the world, when their babies are born, pray to God when they hold that child that that body and that life will be safe for the rest of his life. Yet we have a mother and a father who mourn the life of a young man who should be here today. We have a grandson who now does not have a father. His brothers and sister will lose the love of growing old with their baby brother. Look at the situation. This is a family that lost their son and their brother through an act of violence at the hands and the feet of people who had been with keeping them safe. And when I think about the courage and the strength of this family, I think it demands that we speak truth. And with this, I will say, this violent act was not in pursuit of public safety. It was not in the interest of keeping the public safe, because one mask was not it in the interest of keeping the public safe that Tyre Nichols would be with us here today. Was he not also entitled to the right to be safe? So when we talk about public safety, let us understand what it means in its truest form. Tyre Nichols should have been safe.
That's right. That's right.
So I'll just close by saying this. I was, as a senator, as a United States Senator, a co-author of the original George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And as Vice President of the United States, we demand that Congress pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Joe Biden will sign it. And we should not delay, and we will not be denied. It's non-negotiable. And with that, I'll just, Pastor, if you don't mind, one of my favorite verses of Scripture is Luke chapter 1, verse 79, which tells us God will help us to shine a light upon those who sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet in the way of peace. Let our memory of Tyre shine a light on the path toward peace and justice. Thank you.
Of course, folks, that was Vice President Kamala Harris. And I want to get your take on this, what Vice President Harris had to say. Post your comments in our chat section on YouTube as we're streaming live on Facebook and, of course, on blackstarnetwork.com. I have to say, folks, that I saw some people making some criticism about the Vice President as she gave her remarks. I didn't see anything necessarily wrong or crazy that she said. But it is interesting, to say the least, folks, that we're putting a lot of hope into this piece of policy. And I'm hoping, I'm cautious. I'm going to use the term cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic. Because I want to believe that this George Floyd Justice for Policing Act will get to the very essence, to the foundation of this level of systemic brutality and racism. I want to believe that. I really, really do. But I also know that we are dealing with a mindset coming from the other side that may not see they don't see the struggle, they don't see the plight, they don't see the issue the way that we do. And I'm not saying we as in black, just black folks. I'm talking about we as folks who of good conscience, who understand this, whether you're black, white, Asian, or Latino, we are folks of good conscience who understand that this cannot continue to be the way that we do policing in this country. It doesn't work for anyone. It doesn't work for anyone. And we've said it on this show, and I'm sure some of you may have heard this, that actually white people do get brutalized by police as well. We just don't hear those stories, not quite as much as we hear about black people. We don't have national funerals. Their videos aren't put on national display. So we're seeing something totally different. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I understand, in my understanding of how systems and governments work, policy is a small part. The bigger part is getting us as the constituents into a place where we're really are at a better place with the policy. Like we're pushing the policy. We're making the policy situation so serious that the representatives feel almost like they are doing if they don't pass this piece of legislation, it's a derelict in their duties. That's how bad I think that we need to make this. Cautiously optimistic, but we do have to plan accordingly. All right, let me go to you, my online culture crew. I said I wanted to hear from you. And guess what, folks? Y'all are responding. So let's kick it off with you, Sandy. Sandy, you said, I know Vice President Harris, better not ever repeat that foolish statement about America not being racist. Nope, she can't do that, Sandy. Can't do that. Can't do that. Can't do that. No. And here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. I think this is and I look, this is not necessarily a wake-up call, but I'm gonna say this, Sandy, and I'm sure you may agree with me on this one. The thing is, this is more, it's not a wake-up call, but it is a reminder that it's really bigger than the mindset, right? The blue wall of silence, the blue wall of accepting this. That's the problem. I remember someone had tweeted, I had put out a tweet about it because folks, I've been tweeting about this situation, just kind of putting it out there. And if you want to follow me, you certainly can. My tweet, you can follow me on Twitter at Farajii. And someone had put out there, I'm just pulling up this tweet very quickly. Someone had mentioned something that I thought was pretty interesting. And one of the Twitter users said, Farajii, I don't understand it at all. None of it. How sick must their minds be to have done this? And it's a valid question, right? It's a valid question. How sick, right? Because in all of this, no one had the presence of mind. No one had the humanity. And I'm going back to what Attorney Ben Crump said yesterday. No one saw the humanity in Tyre to say anything, to stop the brutality, to say, okay, he had enough. No one had the presence of mind that in the midst of these officers using 71 different commands within a 13-minute period, like within minutes of each other, seconds, so many different contradictory commands that say, hey, we need to, wait a minute, let's just give this man a chance to process what's going on. No one thought that when the EMS paramedics came through, that they would take him straight to the hospital as soon as possible and not allow minutes to pass before the ambulance left the scene. No one. So it's not necessarily now. It's not even necessarily about a color of the skin. It's about a culture. It's about a system. It's about all of that. But this lady, when this lady mentioned that, she said, "I don't understand it, Farajii, none of it. How sick must their minds be to have done this?" My response was, power is a hell of a drug, and the blue wall of silence is the vial that it comes in. That's my response there, folks. Power is a hell of a drug, and the blue wall of silence is the vial that it comes in. Presence of mind. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to get more of your thoughts. Stay with us. A lot to talk about as we continue to share with you the remarks made at Tyre Nichols' funeral, and I want to hear comments from you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We are going to be just kind of listening and giving you a chance to hear some of the remarks that were made by some of the national leaders at yesterday's funeral procession in celebration of life activities for Tyre Nichols. And we played the full remarks made by Vice President Kamala Harris, who emphasized and is advocating for the passage of the George Floyd Justice for Policing Act. We're going to continue to, of course, have conversations about that, but I want you to share your thoughts as we are playing these excerpts from yesterday's activities. Very quickly, let me go to Wendell very quickly. Wendell Muhammad, you checked in and said, who created the system? Who is head of the system? What does it look like? You said, what does it look like? Who's in control of that system? Guess who? I think you know where I'm going with this. Yeah, well, that's true. That's true, Brother Wendell. And we understand all of those questions. We know the answers to all of those questions, right? We know the answers to all of those questions. And I think that you and I are both probably on the same page of this, that we have to create a heaven for ourselves now instead of waiting for it in the by and by. We can't keep. We don't know how long this system is going to be up for. We don't know what dramatic change is going to take place. But I can't think about tomorrow if I'm living. I can't think about saying a heaven is coming tomorrow and I'm living in hell today. You know what I mean? My spirit just won't allow me to sit by and idly watch a situation going down. And not only is the system going down, but there are people, my people, black folks, even white people, even Latino folks. You got people who are wrapped up in the system and are being taken down by the system, right? And some of us may have this mentality, and I'm glad that you brought this point up, Brother Wendell. Some of us may have a mentality, well, like, let the system go down, but not understanding that we got family members connected to the system. Our livelihoods are connected to the system, right? And if we don't have a full plan or a semblance of a plan on how we're going to either break away from the system or reform the system, then guess what? We may find ourselves being taken down by the system. So we you know, and I get it because I've been hearing this for all of my life that there's, look, let America fall, let America go through what she needs to go through, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, we are all taking advantage of this system. We are all connected to this system. And so we have to determine how the best way we can disconnect ourselves and what's on the other side of that. What's going to be the alternate reality? What's going to be the ultimate goal for all of us? All right, let me go to another clip from yesterday. And who we have, I want to just, and as we have this conversation, team, I want to make sure that I'm introducing the right clip. So I want to go to, let's go to Reverend Sharpton. He says so much, and again, this is where Reverend Sharpton is, and you know, as a person who is a student of the movement. There is, you know, I really start to appreciate those who walk the path. Now, we may not always agree. I may not always agree with the good Reverend. I may not always understand his moves, but it's okay because at the end of the day, this man has put in some time. He's put in some work. And I believe that he has the heart to try to do something for the people. So these are some remarks that Reverend Sharpton made after the funeral when they had their press conference. Make sure y'all tune into this part as well, because this, again, is after the funeral. They had another press conference to kind of chart out what's the next step as the family is seeking justice for Tyre Nichols. Take a look.
Let me be clear that when we get engaged in a battle, we engage to the end. As you may have seen, as late as last year and this year, if it was Ahmaud Arbery's trial, if it was Trayvon, if it was George Floyd's trial, we were there with the families, or we were marching on the prosecutors. We want to put this county on notice that we intend to be at the trials and arraignments. We are mountain climbers. Yes. And we are going to fight this battle with this family. We do not get involved in National Action Network and other groups. And as Ben Crump, as the Attorney General for Black America, we do not get involved to just do funerals. I'm not a funeral director. I'm an activist. And we do funerals as part of raising attention. Secondly, it is imperative that the United States Senate and Congress deal with the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Civil rights organizations, the 8 legacy groups, including National Action Network, had virtual meetings set this week with Senator Schumer and with King Jeffrey to talk about how we introduce the George Floyd Act. Attorney Crump and the family and I have talked to Senator Cory Booker about it. All roads lead to legislation. We are not going to stop until legislation is signed. Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King of the Drum Major Institute and National Action Network is calling for tens of thousands to meet us in Washington on August 26th around continuing the dream, protecting the dream, including the George Floyd bill, which is why we had many of the families fly in. So this is not the end of a funeral, but the beginning of a movement around legislation. As McCarthy meets with the president on the national debt ceiling, we're going to engage them on the debt owed Black America. The Congressional Black Caucus has invited the family up to the State of the Union. We do know the state of our community, and we intend to be diligent about it.
That was, of course, Reverend Al Sharpton, founder of the National Action Network, and the Reverend talking, laying out what the next steps are moving forward from this tragedy, and in light of this tragedy. Of course, the George Floyd Justice for Policing Act, he's putting out there. He said they're going to be meeting in National Action Network, and other groups are planning to have a conversation with Senator Chuck Schumer of New York, and of course the House Speaker, Brother Hakeem Jeffries. Two very important voices to have to try to get this piece of legislation reintroduced to Congress and try to move forward on it. So that is big. Again, I understand the point of policy, so I'm cautiously optimistic, but I like the other piece that Reverend Sharpton said, that if we're going to have a conversation about the national debt ceiling, there needs to be a conversation about reparation, about what is owed to Black people in this country as a result of the 440 plus years of oppression that we still are suffering under. And so there has to be a national conversation about that. And there has to be some assurance that there's going to be a national push for that as well. So I think all of these are in play. And again, one of the things that I appreciate about Reverend Sharpton and those who are working with him is the fact that you do need a national infrastructure to help carry the burden of this type of work. This work is not easy, folks. If you've done any community organizing, I've done community organizing on a local level, but when you're talking about taking in a family like the Nichols family, when you're talking about organizing and galvanizing, bringing people and legislation together, when you're talking about keeping the word out, and you heard Reverend Sharpton say, he said, I'm not a funeral director, I'm an activist. The funeral is used to bring attention. So for those of us who may say, well, why are they doing this funeral? It's to bring attention. It's along the same vein as what we saw with the great tragedy of our little brother Emmett Till, and why his mother wanted to keep the casket open. It's a reminder to America, that we're going to interrupt your day, right? We're going to interrupt your day to make sure that you see what what racism and brutality truly looks like and the impact that it has. Now, after yesterday's funeral, I kept thinking about, there's no way in the world you can watch all of that or just any of that and still walk away feeling hard-hearted, stiff-necked, and thinking, you know what? We don't have a problem with police brutality. There's no way. And if you did, then I don't know what to say, because you can't possibly be that inhumane. And if you are, we just got to deal with you accordingly. But that is huge. All right, let me go to a couple of more folks. Deidre, you checked in and said you can't train these officers these days because they don't care. It's all about power when they had that badge on them. Absolutely. Absolutely. Power. Look, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation. I'm going to share with you what Attorney Ben Crump had to say at the same press conference after the funeral. We'll share with you that. And, of course, get more of your comments. Stay with us, folks. A lot to talk about here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. I want to continue to share with you some remarks made by some of the prominent national leaders that were present for yesterday's funeral procession and celebration of life for Tyre Nichols. We just heard from Reverend Al Sharpton. I want to share with you a little bit of what Attorney Ben Crump had to say after the funeral. Again, this is the press conference that they organized after the funeral to lay out what the next steps are. So we shared with you what Ben Crump said inside the church during the funeral. But what's the next step for the legal side, for the legal team, as we're talking about making sure that the Nichols families get the justice that they deserve, that all 7 cops and even the paramedics, that all 7 cops, and who else was just standing there? All 7 cops be held accountable for the death of our brother. All 7. Here's what Mr. Ben Crump had to say. Take a look.
Team effort to get justice, and we need all of us. Us fighting in the courtroom, us fighting outside of the courtroom, us fighting in the pulpits. So Reverend Jamal, all the preachers, we need all of us to finally get this reform. Remember, we have to be students of history. We have not had systematic police reform since Lyndon B. Johnson in the Great Society. That was 1960. Farajii King, it didn't happen. Didn't happen for Michael Brown Ferguson during President Obama's administration. Did not happen for George Floyd. I mean, how many videos do we have to show you, America, before we say we have a problem? It's the culture. Right. It's the culture. It's not whether the officer is black, Hispanic, or white. Now, it's the institutionalized police culture that says it is acceptable to engage excessive use of force on black and brown citizens. And we can show you exhibit after exhibit after exhibit. Attorney O'Neill, Attorney Rich, Pastor Jamal, and Pastor Turner, we'll try to take some of your questions. If you don't have it. If you don't have it, I can get to that. Yes, You know, it's so significant to show America that these are not isolated incidents. For years, for decades, they would say, when black people say the police brutalized us, nah, we think y'all just exaggerating and y'all are lingering and so forth. We can have scars and bruises, but it didn't matter until we got video. That was the game changer. I told Madam Vice President, I said, whatever we do, we got to continue to fund body cam video because we got to be able to see what's happening. Transparency is the only thing we can depend on. And you want to be me to interpret it for you. You want to be Pastor Brown or Pastor Turner, nobody to interpret it for you. You can see it with your own eyes. I told them, video is so important because if we got transparency, then we can get accountability, and then we can get to trust. And that's what it's about. And the blueprint is set out here, members. I don't never want to hear them say, Attorney O'Neill, that we got to wait a year, we got to wait 2 years, like, with Eric Garner and Tamir Rice. They can't say that anymore because the Tyre rule is 20 days. Start counting. We see a video of the crime, whether it's white police officers or black police officers. That's now the blueprint. And we can't do this just with black police officers. We got to do this when any police officer brutalizes us.
And folks, I want to just let you know that you can see the full, all of the funeral procession, and that presser. You can see it. We're streaming it now on blackstarnetwork.com. Again, we're streaming all of that from yesterday's activities, yesterday's celebration of life activities on blackstarnetwork.com. But let's process that for a minute, right? The Tyre rule, 20 days. 20 days, folks. And see, that may just be the very thing. This is the silver lining of what we are seeing right now. The silver lining is we didn't have a time frame in that policy until this tragedy took place. Now we got a time frame. Now it adds more meat to the policy. The Tyre rule, 20 days. Woo. We're not just calling for justice to come rolling down when it's ready to roll down. We're calling for swift justice. 20 days. See, when you add a little time to the policy, it makes it even more real. And then if the policy is approved, if it's voted on, that timeline becomes etched in stone. And that's important for us because it gives us some sense of relief to the burden of carrying the pain. Because we're carrying the pain. And you heard our brother, he's talking about Tamir Rice. He's talking about Eric Garner. I mean, we haven't really gotten any full justice out of these past cases of brutality because there was no timeline on it. So each tragedy, as much as it is a loss, it adds a little bit more to the gain and to the progress of where we're trying to take this whole situation. That's a beautiful silver lining there, folks. I hope y'all following me on that. All right, let me go to Truth is Power. My God, Truth is Power. You posted a few things, so I'm going to try to get a couple of your remarks in. You said, one, I'm tired of saying, he was a good person. I want to see preventive action to keep these young men alive. Facts. Before this happens, double facts. And we've got the letter, voice be heard through a vote. Yep, you're absolutely right. Truth is Power. You also added, tragedy shouldn't bring us together. We should already be united as one before the tragedy happens to prevent it from happening. We've seen this over and over again. What is it going to take? That's facts. That's facts. Funerals bring families together all the time, though. You know that. Truth is Power. Funerals bring families all together all the time. Sometimes the tragedy is necessary to bring light to a situation, so that way that new path can be laid. But it comes from the pain. And I'm not going to the stars on this one, folks, but someone asked a question. I think I heard a minister or reverend say that the real ministry of Jesus didn't start when he was alive. It started when he was crucified. Whew. So sometimes the darkest periods of our life actually serves as the incubator and the catalyst for the change that we've been seeking. So you can't condemn the darkness, because in the darkness, there's life. In the darkness is the possibility of something new. That's how that's how nature, that's how the universe works. The universe don't always create in the light. It creates in the darkness. So something new can come out of dark, tragic situations. So that's the yin and yang of life. Let's get one more in before we wrap up. Let me see from Wendell, you said we have become a habitation of devils, as the Bible says. We are acting like beasts in the field. Unfortunately, brother, we're seeing that type of mentality. And let me just say this very quickly before we take our next pause. Don't think that white America, or don't think that Latino America is not in on this. I'm convinced at this point, folks, everybody is tired of being lied to. Everybody is tired of seeing the children of white supremacy, racism, and oppression, and systemic bias. Everybody is tired. We all are feeling the brunt now. White America, Black America, we all are feeling the brunt now. So for white America, the benefit is, look, I got my children coming into this world. I don't want to condemn my children or my grandchildren to a world and to a system that's going to hate them as soon as they're born. So I may have to do something to relieve this burden. But the other part of it is this. You can't stop truth from emerging. We are all tired of being lied to. We are all tired of being played. We're all tired of being seen as widgets, as part of a system, and not seen as human beings. There's a revolution brewing, folks. There's a revolution brewing. And this may be another step toward us emerging and having an evolved consciousness on how we see each other. When you see this level of disdain and inhumane behavior, it will make you think about your own humanity just as much as you think about the humanity of Tyre Nichols. That how can a person do this to another person with no regard? Now, yes, it's black faces, black fists, black kicks. But out of tragedy comes a possibility of something new, something better, something greater. Look, folks, I'm convinced that even though we are experiencing this tragedy, Tyre Nichols' life he did not die in vain. I'm convinced that this is going to be another milestone in the pursuit for justice, in the pursuit of liberation. I'm convinced. Just like we have certain deaths throughout the civil rights movement, certain moments of this is another moment. And the thing is, it's not 5, 10, 15 years down the road. They're coming much more frequently, which means that there's a major, major shift that's coming. And that shift first has to start within our minds, in our hearts, and then it's going to manifest into policy and how we interact with one another. All right, I got to take another pause. When we come forward, we're going to switch gears. We're going to check in with Atty James Walker, talk to him about some things in the entertainment field. Plus, I'm going to pick his brain a little bit about what he sees and as it relates to this case, and so much more. Folks, keep the chat going. Let's continue the conversation. And of course, stay tuned. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. We were showing you just some excerpts, some clips of remarks made by Vice President Kamala Harris, Reverend Al Sharpton at a press conference after yesterday's funeral, and Attorney Ben Crump. You know, we're going to be checking in a few moments with our next guest, Attorney James Walker. But we were talking about, you know, what the next steps were. And let's be clear about what those next steps look like, folks. We're talking about the passage of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. We're talking about adding, not just the passing of that act, but adding what Attorney Ben Crump says called the Tyre rule, which is the timeline of 20 days for us to expect some level of justice, right? Which is an understandable timeline. I always thought that it was interesting. In the state of Maryland, they had the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights. And this particular policy, which was certainly a huge piece of legislation that was advocated and lobbied for by the police unions in the state of Maryland, protected officers that in cases like this, that officers would have, you know, up to 7 to 10 days to not make a statement, to retain an attorney, and to take care of all of the legal stuff before they even question about a particular incident. It was a huge protection, a huge shield for law enforcement officers. And I found it to be very interesting. And I remember going to the Capitol in Maryland, Annapolis, and we were, you know, it just wasn't me, of course. It was organizers and activists from various organizations across the state who were lobbying state leaders in Maryland to do something about police brutality. That effort would happen a session before the killing of Freddie Gray in Baltimore City. So before Freddie Gray was killed, and when we were seeing the national conversations around from everything from Trayvon Martin to Michael Brown to other cases, Maryland, in the state of Maryland, myself and others, we were saying this could happen in Baltimore. This could happen in Maryland. And as a result of that, they didn't listen. They didn't hear it. And then boom, the session, I think, ended, the legislative session in the state of Maryland, I think, ended in February or March. Freddie Gray was killed in April of that same year. And we were all like, you see what I'm saying? And one of the lessons that I took from that experience, folks, is that sometimes, you know, in order to get the blood off your hands, you just got to go and cry to the winds, as they say, right? You got to go to the powers that be and speak truth to that power, right? Now, whether the person or those groups of folks want to hear you or not, whether they want to listen to what you have to say or not, that's on them. But to clear your conscience and to get the blood off your hands, you can't sit idly by when you know that you have an opportunity to speak out for justice. You may say, well, suppose we lose. Okay, and suppose we don't get what we say we wanted to get. That's fine. But the real power is getting organized and making the effort. Trust and believe you're going to win in the long run, because justice never sleeps. I want y'all to remember this, folks. See, in this country, we're made to believe that because we see the courts, they don't prosecute those who are responsible for the killing of people, whether they're black or white, whether they're police officers or not. We say, oh, well, their courts let them off, so therefore they're innocent. Justice never sleeps. And so I want us to keep that in mind, that in our fight to get justice in these cases of police brutality, we can't lose the spirit, we can't lose the desire, and we can't start to become hopeless that we think, oh man, this is never going to change anything. It will change. It will change. And you know why it changes? And you know why we need to keep fighting? Because I don't want my children, and I'm certain that I don't want your children or your grandchildren. We should not want the next generation to bear the burden of being in this fight, and we pass it on to them. Systemic racism, oppressive policing, right? We're passing that on to them when we give up the fight. We're passing on to them hopelessness and despair when we give up and refuse to fight. We're passing on to them weakness when we give up and refuse to fight. Justice never sleeps. All right, let me get my very special guest for today. And we're just having a fireside chat, y'all. Y'all know that this here on The Culture, we've been processing everything. We've talked a lot about these things, but my spirit and my energy right now is one where, you know, I'm fired up. I'm very sad about what happened to our brother. I'm sad about this state that we find ourselves in, but I'm still hopeful because I know that, again, out of tragedy, a new reality can come into existence. But I'm very excited and happy to have my brother joining me here. He's an attorney in the entertainment field. He's been doing a massive work in there. making sure that artists and athletes and other creatives get their just due in a field and in a system that sometimes will want to take the talent and leave the money. And so this brother, he did something massive. He took one of the biggest distributors of music to court, and he won. He won this huge class action lawsuit he did against BMG years ago. He won a major lawsuit that was for artists and for creatives at that time years ago, and he won. And guess what? He hails from an HBCU in the great city of Washington, D.C. Y'all know which HBCU I'm talking about. Howard University. So I'm happy to have Attorney James Walker joining us here today. Mr. James Walker, good afternoon. Welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network, brother. How are you?
My brother, it's good to be here. I love your show, man, and I love what you said. I marched Saturday through New York with Tamika Mallory and a whole bunch of young people.
My sisters, yes.
Yeah, that's one of my closest friends, and one of the things that you said that I love is not leaving it for the next generation. I like the way you put that. I never looked at it that way. I was in New York doing one of our Broadway plays, asked Tamika what was going on in the city with partners on a Broadway play, and she said, hey, there's a march today at 5. There's a rally. So I went to the rally at Washington Square, and these young people marched 40 blocks, and I was right there with them. 40 blocks from Washington Square to Times Square. And it's the most deepest thing. You know, you're there in Times Square where I got plays going on all around me that I'm a part of, as well as our museum. And then we marching for the cause right there at 42nd, 44th and Times Square. And to me, that's what it's about. That you handle your business on one side of the street, but on the other side of the street, you marching to say, we ain't taking this sitting down. Even those of us who ain't 20, 25, 30 no more, we up here in our 40s and 50s, we taking it the same way these young people are taking it and saying, we're not going to take this no more.
Big brother, I am blown away, and I'm not surprised. I mean, you have, I mean, just from your personal history, you know, this is how you learned, this is what you grew up in. So I'm not surprised that you took place in March. Because you are a student of the movement and the struggle, and you went to Howard University, so that's in you. But I'm so happy to hear that 40 blocks that was done, especially as we look at that. And again, Tamika Mallory, we know our sister. She's been on the fight for against police brutality for the longest. Man, I had nothing but love for my sister. With my man, my son, and others who are part of the Justice League and all of the other folks that are doing great work in NYC and across this country. I mean, and I want to pick your brain just a little bit, because when we look at this situation of Tyre Nichols, as a Black man and then as a Black attorney, and you saw this case and you heard of this story and how it unfolded, what went through your mind, Brother James?
Well, first, as a father of 2 Black males, 20 and 28 years old, that could be any of our cousins, sons, nephews, father. That could be any of us at 20, 28 years old, my boys. That could be my boys. It could be your cousin. It could be you. So that was the first thought I felt. That here's a guy who's a photographer, does the skateboarding, clearly a good guy. His mother said he wasn't perfect, but he was the perfect son. And she talked about at the funeral how she just couldn't put into words how wonderful of a person he was. And you feel that when you read his website. I'm so proud that they read his website on TV and they give him his due. But yeah, my first thought was, I thought it was white people at first. And then when I found out it was us, I was even more upset because, as everybody has said, you know, we've all been to Memphis. I've been to that Lorraine Hotel. My son's a baseball player. We've played baseball in Memphis. I know Memphis. Memphis is not an easy town. You know, it's got some rough spots. But to see our men, our Black men, and I understand they may be members of Omega Psi Phi, a fraternity.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I'm an alpha, and I love my Omega brothers. I love all my Greeks. And I just can't believe there's so many layers to this. Black men working for the police departments. I have relatives that had to sue to get treated right by police and fire departments up and down the East Coast. So for you to be in a city on a police department where we've had to fight to get an opportunity to be in these departments, and then you're fighting us and beating us down to the point of death, and then you're a part of, one of the most distinguished organizations, Omega Psi Phi. There's so many. Then you're a black man. There's so many layers to this that are just so disappointing and hurtful for us as black men. We always say we killing each other. This is literally that kind of thing.
And that's the part, I think, Brother James, that I'm still trying to wrap my mind around. Because when I had just found out that they were a part of this fraternity, and then it like really just blew me away. It's like, what the hell?
A fraternity.
Like, brother, I just look. We got to take a quick pause.
Yeah.
But it is so hard to wrap your mind around that you got black men. 3 out of the 5 were actually a part of a black male fraternity, and they treat another black man like this.
A fraternity of W. Boys, Jesse Jackson, and so many others. Michael Jordan, Shaq O'Neal, all of these guys are in that same fraternity, and they will tell you that's not what Omega Psi Phi stands for.
We clearly know, right? Yeah. Something happened. Something happened. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more with our brother, Atty James Walker, and of course with you. Folks, stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for
the voice of Black America rolling.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the show. I am talking to Attorney James Walker II. He is an entertainment attorney. He's a Broadway producer. He's an author. He's a business analyst. And today he's joining us to provide his analysis and insights on everything from Tyre Nichols and so much more. Of course, folks, we want you to join us in the conversation because no conversation is complete without you, my online culture crew. So make sure y'all throw y'all comments into the chat. We're streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook. And, of course, you can go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. All right, Big Brother James, bringing it back to you. The fact that these three out of the 5 Black police officers for this Memphis, the former officers, were part of a Black fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can help me to make sense of this, brother. How are you a part of a Black male fraternity, but then engage in the brutality and the ultimate death of a Black man?
Well, I think all of us have some bad apples. Alphas, Kappas, Sigmas, Qs, AKs, Deltas, you name it. We all got some bad apples. And we don't know if these brothers were actually active in their local chapters. We don't know if they were active on the national level. So we don't know when they pledged, but clearly we know that's not the principle for which Omega Psi fraternity operates. We all know if you a member of Omega Psi Phi, that's not what you stand for. I know many of the brothers pledged at Howard, where I went to school. Howard is the Alpha chapter of the fraternity, and they're just good brothers. And it's disappointing to them. Many of them are upset to see these guys wearing the Omega bracelets on their wrists as they're beating that guy down. And I think for us as a society, it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call that there is a mentality in these police departments, whether Black or white, that the officers apparently are taking on. They're putting on that stripe and they're putting on that culture behind that stripe or that blue uniform. They're not just putting it on and saying, okay, I'm in here to make change. They're putting it on and saying, hey, I'm one of the good old boys. Now I got this uniform on and I got a baton on my waist as well as a gun, and I'm going to go out here and kind of maintain, the status quo of what we know these police departments historically has done to our society. And I almost think I was telling, some of the marchers Saturday, like, you almost want to go after the federal government and say, look, you're not doing enough to protect my people. You have institutional operations that systematically work together for the demise of Black people. And I'm not trying to sound like, I'm militant or something, but I just think if you look at history,
now I'm saying keep it real, brother James. It's the culture, bro. Keep it 100.
I know
no,
you didn't
because
go ahead,
brother. I'm sorry.
I know you didn't bring me on here to call for the burning down of police stations or
but look, we're Black men. We're Black men, and look, I'm gonna tell you, and my online culture crew will tell you, I've been trying to process this thing right in front of their face. So I get it. Whatever comes out of this, it comes out of it because it's going to have to come out. We're going to have to discuss it. But a man of your stature, a man who's been in these various spaces, whether you're talking about celebrities or whether you're talking about activists and organizers, we all have a role to play in this situation. Like you can't be a black attorney coming from Howard, raising 2 sons. I saw that your son, your son, JW the third, he's a lawyer, it's all connected, bro.
No, it's totally all connected. I remind him every night as he walks home to Brooklyn through Bed-Stuy to his neighborhood there that, hey, it could be you. You could be just like Tyre, just like Sandra Bland, just like Botham Jean, just like Eric Garner. I can go down the whole list. It could be any one of us when we walk out of that safe corporate office we think we're in and stroll the streets of America in D.C., New York, Chicago, L.A., Atlanta, Mississippi, St. Louis. Where did this one happen at? Memphis, anywhere. Yes, and the sad thing is now we know it could even be any one of us with one of us on the other side of the car in a police uniform that has our hue and our skin complexion, but definitely doesn't have our heart to do something this tragic for this family and for us as a community.
Absolutely. And speaking of heart, Janelle, one of my online culture crew members, she brought up that very point. She said some folks leave the fraternity when they graduate. They only see themselves as brothers while they're pledging. They carry the card in their wallet, but not the oath in their heart.
Good point. Very good point, sister. That's definitely true. I want to emphasize this all of the big organizations. I don't want to single out Omega Psi Phi because it's all of us got bad apples who this could have been any of our bad apples. I don't want to make them feel singled out. And we, again, don't know how active the brothers were. And like the sister said, some of them look at it as just an undergrad thing. I know for me as an alpha, I live with the principals every day, 24/7. I'm very closely connected to the brothers that I came in with, and we work around the clock in our chapter in DC trying to make sure we're upholding the light of what alpha stands for, as I know many Omega Psi Phi brothers are doing in their various chapters.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Brother James, give me some insight into this, because you are in those spaces where you are around high-profile individuals, whether they're your personal clients or whether they're, just acquaintances and associates. Like, for example, you're a Broadway producer, so you are connected to a lot of people with money, fame, and status. How is this a tragedy? I mean, how is the talk around police brutality? I often wonder, what is the talk around some of our high-profile members of the community, members of the community around these issues? Because a lot of people, and I know some people may not want to admit this, but we want to hear from celebrities when these things speak out. Like, we know LeBron James is vocal about certain things, right? But we may not hear from a quote unquote a Michael Jordan.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Or we know some others. So what's the temperature? What kind of feedback do you hear when you're in those spaces when these big moments come up in our community?
Well, I can give you one firsthand. I have rap artists that I represent in Atlanta, well-known rap artists, and I can't tell you how many times they're pulled over by the police, and they're calling me, and I say, keep the line open, and let's just stay calm. They're going to search the car. They're going to check your ID, your registration. Stay calm. So the conversations I'm having with my clients is, do not think because you're a millionaire, ball player, rapper, or businessman that you're immune as to what happened to Mr. Nichols or what happened to Eric Garner or what happened to George Floyd. Do not think you're immune because of your financial status or because of your title or because of your position. I'm very real with my clients. And I try to tell them, be mindful when you step off that basketball court or baseball field or out that rap studio. To them, you just a black you-know-what. And if you cross the lane the wrong way or you jaywalk or do anything that brings attention to yourself or not, there's a potentiality you could have a serious situation on your hand with some of these rogue police officers. So I try to teach my clients, and the conversations are, sometimes they don't believe it because they live a life where they feel like they're immune, but most of the times they do see okay, this is real. And I want to point out something you said about Michael Jordan versus LeBron. Social media has become the equalizer. LeBron and company knows they post something about a George Floyd or Tyre Nichols, they're going to get 1 million comments on social media with the power to the fists up. Michael Jordan, Dr. J, my era, they came up where their advisors are telling them, hey, don't speak out on black crime. Little boys killing themselves over your sneakers, just take the high road. Don't touch that because you'll lose your endorsement deals. Corporate America is not comfortable with that. You know what I mean? Had Kaepernick happened back in 85 or 90, I don't know if Nike would have been as behind it as they were in these. It's kind of the in thing now to stand with Kaepernick. I have a client that we have a documentary debuting tomorrow night. I'm giving you exclusive. I have a client debuting on Showtime tomorrow night. Mahmoud Muhammad. Chris Jackson, people know him. He used to play for LSU. He's a ball player. Mr. Mahmoud. He will be on Showtime tomorrow night for a documentary on his life as one of the first guys who refused to say the anthem when he played for the Denver Nuggets. And it destroyed his whole NBA career. Now we're celebrating him. This documentary tomorrow and the piece I did with him on ESPN about 2 years ago, now he's coming back and everybody's behind Mahmoud. But 20 plus years ago, his house was burned down when he refused to stand for the national anthem. We had to have security. We had to make sure he was safe because back then it wasn't the in thing for these athletes to take the stance that LeBron is taking. So to your original question, there's conversation now because the culture has said it's okay. But 20, 30 years ago, the culture wasn't standing with Mahmoud. They weren't standing with the guy that played for the Bulls. I forgot his name, the point guard that played with Michael Jordan, Craig.
Like Hodges?
Yeah, when he was standing up and being vocal. They weren't with
that.
They weren't. So you got Mahmoud, you got him. That's where the culture was then. And Michael Jordan didn't stand up for any of those brothers. Now you fast forward 20 plus years later, LeBron is going to get kudos. Matter of fact, if you don't speak up, you might be attacked now. When Kyrie Irving had his incidents a few weeks ago, people were looking at fellow NBA players and like, yo, are you standing with him or not? So the culture now dictates that you speak up. So because of that, it's cool to have a conversation now. Now, do these guys really believe that they could get pulled over by police and harassed? Some do, some don't. But they at least now will post it on their social media. If you go look today, I bet everybody's hashtagging Tyre Nichols.
So, and I think so. I'm glad that you brought that up, Brother James, because that means that there is some progress that's being made, right? Like from a cultural standpoint, it sounds like we're forcing, because behind the culture, there's corporate America. Behind the rapper, but behind the basketball player and the football player, behind the actor and actress, corporate America, Hollywood, New York, Washington, D.C. So we're seeing that really culture does have some power and influence to force corporate America to say, all right, we're going to have to start accepting this. We saw that, with Cap. Like you said, if Cap was born back then and he had taken a stand, say 20 years ago, he would have been banned for life. Cap just signed with a major publicist, CAA, Creative Artists Agency out here in LA. Cap he just did a book deal that he dropped last year, a children's book. He did the piece with Ava DuVernay with his show. I mean, Cap is still content. Cap is still making money. Cap is not being blackballed from the culture.
Correct. Cap has shown.
You see what I'm saying? So they're still. So essentially.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You said you let me. Okay. Cap has shown it's the in thing now.
Yeah,
to speak up. You can speak up now and you can survive it. But let's go back 50 years ago with Muhammad Ali. He was the first one that lost 3 years of his life when he wouldn't go to Vietnam and he spoke out. Ain't nobody in Vietnam called me the N-word. What am I going there for? And he lost millions and millions of dollars in the prime of his career. And he was probably the last one, to do that. Then we had Arthur Ashe. He spoke up when he was a tennis player. He was very vocal. Of course, Bill Russell and others, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But Muhammad Ali passed the torch to Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan went silent for decades. LeBron picked up the mantle from where Muhammad Ali started in the 60s, speaking out on, the injustices that the Black American face right here on the homeland. But there was a window.
We gotta take a quick pause. Hey, sure. Yeah, Brother James, excuse me. We got to take a quick pause. But Pauline, I saw your message. You say Cap is still banned from doing what he loves to do. My brother Damon, you also say he was still banned. He was still banned. He was still penalized by the NFL but he's still not. Look, I'm telling y'all, he signed with CAA, Creative Artists Agency. Folks, CAA is one of the top agencies, PR agencies, representatives representation in the business. One of the top. You got WME, William Morris Endeavor. You got CAA. They're not going to take on a person they think is going to lose. And I'm banned. Yes, he was banned from the NFL, but he wasn't banned from every other venture that he wanted to go to. Yeah, he may not play football ever again on a national or professional level, but he is still producing. He is still making an impact. He still can earn money. But to Brother James's point, you got artists, you got folks that from 25, 30, 40 years ago, that once they spoke out, they couldn't even earn money. Muhammad Ali, he spoke out against the Vietnam War and he couldn't earn no money. Speaking engagements, nothing. Couldn't get an exhibition fight, nothing. Nothing. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Attorney James Walker. And of course, with you, stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking to Attorney James Walker, entertainment lawyer, Broadway producer, author, analyst, business analyst. Brother's doing so much more, taking law and taking his activism to the next level. Certainly happy to have my brother on with us, especially during this day, during this time, to give us some analysis and some context about what we're looking at, and more importantly, what we should expect moving forward as we continue to honor the life and the legacy of Brother Tyre Nichols, and as we continue to have the bigger conversation around systemic racism and brutal policing. I want to make a correction, Damon. You said that you were talking about Chris Jackson, not Kaepernick, being blackballed. So I want to correct myself. I thought you were speaking about Cap being blackballed, but I appreciate that, brother, for making that distinction. And again, I apologize for misinterpreting your statement online. I'd hate to do that. So I'm looking at the chat, brother, Brother James, and we got so much great conversation going on our YouTube chat that sometimes I miss the references, but my brother Damon, he understands, and I appreciate you. And again, brother, I didn't mean to misinterpret your statement. But back to that piece, you're absolutely right. And this is why we even have a show called The Culture, Brother James, because I think that we don't spend enough time and put enough emphasis in realizing that our culture does play a huge part. Like, if we're not in a space where we understand that our shared traditions, our values, how we relate to one another really influences everything that's around us, or is being influenced by everything that's around us, then we're going to see ourselves out of the loop. Black culture is on full display in this country right now, and I'm sure you're seeing it from the vantage point that you're working in. You're dealing with high-profile clients that are worth millions of dollars. People follow every word. People follow every action that they do. These young men, these young women, and these older men and women, they are the leaders, for lack of a better word. And I wanted to kind of delve into that a little bit, Brother James, because if they are the leaders, should we put so much expectation on them? If they are a sports figure, so now we expect every sports figure to be Cat.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I think if you're going to put out $200 sneakers for me to buy, and you're going to invite me to come support your concert, your game, and your merchandise and your movies, you have some duty to this community to make sure we all elevate. It can't be all take in terms of we supporting your basketball, we supporting your music, we supporting your restaurants, we supporting your plays, we supporting your clothing line, we supporting your liquor, we supporting your just everything. If you're going to come at our community and ask us to be that base for you, then I think, yeah, there is some duty on your part to make sure the least amongst us is protected, and to make sure that the least amongst us, if not the majority of us, is getting a shot at a fair and equitable lifestyle and opportunities and safety and everything. You just can't move into your $10 million mansion that we basically pay for and put nothing back into the other side of the track that got you there. Can't do that. You just can't. I remember early on in my career, Ice Cube. I was at an event with Ice Cube. They were raising toys for tots in LA. There's a big event every year in LA during the Christmas time. They raise toys for tots. And Ice Cube was one of the performers. And I was there on business, and I got to him backstage, and he got very much in my face. Like, look, man, just because we made it out the hood, don't believe we forget the hood. And I never forgot that. The intensity in his tone and just his tonality. When he said it to me, I was in my 20s. And it just really resonated with me when I asked him, like, hey, man, this is really cool. What made you do this? And he turned Ice Cube on me. Like, I thought I was on NWA record for a minute there, the way he kind of, kept like, come on, man, you don't know this? But it was a good reminder to me, like, yeah, that's the heart right there. We get out, but we like to say in my office, throw the key back in. You get into the building, you get into the, mix or whatever, throw the key back out for somebody else. You in the lobby, you in the play, you into this, you into that. Throw the key back out so others can get it. That's the duty on us who have made it. And some get it, like LeBron, and then some, unfortunately, where Michael Jordan was 30 years ago, he didn't see his role in this whole billion-dollar sneaker game and the violence that was associated with it and the crime of us young black men shooting each other for his sneakers. He saw none of that. Now he sees it now. He's giving out $1 million almost every other week, every time he turns around. And I'm proud to see that kind of evolution. Is he giving it out because it's from his heart, or is he giving it out because he understands social media is going to come for you if you don't give back with your level of billions? I don't know. That's between him and his God. I'm just glad to see he's finally engaging some of the issues that are nefarious in our communities.
It's interesting because I was having a conversation this morning, Brother James, and I was thinking to myself, I said, it really, and I know this might sound crazy to some, but it must be a very hard job to be a black celebrity in 2023, right? Because why you get
it's because remember this. Back in the day when I first started, the whole celebrity thing was built on mystique. You don't know them. They come out, they promote their movie. Eddie Murphy did it brilliantly. You see Eddie when a movie comes out, then he goes away. No interviews, no talk shows. He disappears for 9 months, a year. Then another movie comes out, and he reappears on the interview circuit. Luther Vandross, he comes out, he does 50 shows, then he goes away, and you don't see him for a season. He makes his money, goes home. With social media, they're never off. They're on, most of the time, even when there's no product out. They're on social media. They're being tagged. They go to the store. Somebody sees them. They post a picture. They go to a play. Somebody sees them at a play. They tag them, We had our play this weekend, the piano lesson. Denzel came through. His son was in the play. One of our lead characters. Will probably get a Tony from it, hopefully. And Denzel was dressed down, sweatsuit on. Nobody, thank God, to my knowledge, posted any pictures. But he was there, just enjoying himself. And that's what celebrities have to deal with now. Everybody wanted to get a picture, but our team rushed him out of the building before anybody could really get up close enough to get a picture. But that's what they live with now. They live in a bubble now where they can't go anywhere without somebody pulling out their phone. So it's a lot harder to be a celebrity now than it was 30 or 40 years ago because everybody's got a cell phone. If you go to the bathroom at Starbucks, somebody's got a phone following you. If you're at your kid's basketball game or church recital or anything, somebody's going to pull a phone out and say, I'm here with the guy who hosts the Culture Show. Yeah. And then they're trying to go over their shoulder, to film you over their shoulder because they want everybody to know how close I am to somebody who's great in our society. And you're there trying to just enjoy your family. You're not trying to be seen.
I get it. You know what though? But and I guess the part of for me is that if God blesses me to get to that level of a Denzel Washington or something, just still to see people just want to feel connected to something that they love, that they admire. You know what I mean? And I don't personally take offense to somebody. Oh, can I get a picture? No problem. Because I understand it. At the end of the day, we're regular human beings. We're doing a job. We love to do what we do. But at the end of the day, if somebody feels like, you know what, if I could put a smile on someone's face with just taking a quick 2 minutes, talking to them, taking a picture, signing something, I mean, what harm does that do for me?
It's no harm, brother. But if you're a Denzel or some other celebrity,
I get it.
You're getting hit up 1,000 times a week.
Right.
And people, you could be at a restaurant with your family and you say, look, I'm sitting with my family. Please, respect that. And people are still trying to do what they do. Sometimes the public doesn't know how to just
I can imagine.
And let you enjoy the moment.
I can certainly imagine that. Now when we're talking about, and folks, I want you to post your comments as we're talking to Attorney James Walker, our brother who's given us some insight into this world. But as we're talking about this, Brother James, what about this idea of blackness, right? And blackness in Hollywood at this point. And of course, we're in award season. Mm-hmm. And this is a time where our blackness is on full display. Of course, we're seeing it like from our sisters, Angela Bassett, Viola Davis. They're putting out these fantastic performances, this catalog of work that's worthy to be admired, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a big conversation in Hollywood and in these spaces in New York, Hollywood, about blackness. What does that mean culturally? What does blackness look like on film and on stage? What's your take on that discussion, brother?
I have an interesting take. We are asking organizations like the Grammys or even the Oscars, the Golden Globes, the Oscars, the Golden Globes, for decades, we've been excluded. You know, Hattie McDaniels won one in the 50s, 60s, and Sidney Poitier won one. We can count on one hand how many blacks have won Best Actor or Best Actress in a leading part with the Globes or even the Oscars. So the question I have is, why are we looking for these organizations to validate us? That's the struggle I have as a black man. Now, if you tell me you want it because it's going to sell more tickets to your show, okay, I'll buy that. That's business. But if you tell me you need a institutional organization that has probably been racist for the first 75 years of its existence to really, really, applaud you and acknowledge you and give you the award, give you the nomination, I kind of think we're like going into the suburbs and asking them to tell us we're great. And they don't really want us in the suburbs.
Wow, Brother James.
I don't
you
really
dropping it like that today? Going into the suburbs and Woo!
I don't look for white legal organizations to give me, some people get like the super lawyer and they're rated this way by this organization and this one they're great. I don't do none of that stuff. I just do what I do every day. And the clients know we win cases. We get artists free from bad contracts. We file federal lawsuits. We file state lawsuits. I don't need some kind of affirmation from an all-white organization telling me that I'm the real deal. I don't need that. I know who I am. So when I look at these black actors, they're like, we have no black nominations. We have no black this, no black that. I kind of say, start our own award show. We don't need them to affirm that Denzel was good in Malcolm X, or Halle Berry was good in one of her movies, or Sam Jackson was good in his movie, or, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman was good in Wakanda. We don't need that. It's nice and it's woo, I got an Oscar nomination or Oscar award, but I don't get up every morning looking at my film clients and TV clients and music clients and say they're certified great if they get a Grammy, an Oscar, or a Golden Globe nomination. I just don't. I don't look that. And I'm definitely not going to look at a place that traditionally hasn't honored us. The foreign press that does the Oscars, do they even have black members in their voting body?
Now they just started. Of course, we know Gerard Carmichael. He did put that out there. They just got it after George Floyd was killed.
We have shown through Tyler Perry we can make successful $100 million grossing films. He's a billionaire. He did it outside of the main landscape of the movie industry and the film industry. He did it his way, and he's providing a lot of jobs. He's putting out great content. He's changing lives. He's empowering people. You know what I mean? Spike got an honorary Oscar, but for years the Oscars kind of snubbed Spike Lee. So I don't know. When you talk about blackness, for me, the whole goal of blackness is that we know ourselves. We're proud of our blackness. We're proud of what we come from, how we got here, how we overcame, where we are today. All of that to me gets vitiated if I'm walking down the street and looking for the Oscars to give me a table or say I'm Attorney of the Year or I'm Actor of the Year. I think it kind of vitiates everything we are in blackness, because in blackness there's strength. In blackness there's kind of like this confidence, we can do this. Look where we come from. Look whose shoulders we stand on. And we don't need nobody to affirm us with an award. We just don't. I struggle when I see those, we're boycotting this organization because they don't have enough black actors in it or whatever. The only thing I support is if you're telling me you need that to sell tickets and it hurts us at the box office, so that's your motivation. I get that, because it's about, hey, I made a movie, I want to be profitable. But if it's just for the superficial vanity of it, to have, an Oscar clutch to your chest and brag that, a group of white reporters and voters gave me this award, that's not blackness to me. That's almost assimilation.
Damn. Brother James, I got to take another pause. When we come forward from final remarks from you, our online culture crew are just simply loving you, brother. They love hearing your expertise and your insight as a black attorney, as a black man, as a black father. So, this can't be the last time we have you on. But we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, final remarks from Brother James Walker, and of course, sharing with you more comments coming in from our online culture crew. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking to Attorney James Walker, entertainment lawyer, who is an author. He's also a business owner. He's an analyst, doing fantastic work, all in the name of law, and of course, all in the name of taking his people further. So I'm so happy we've been having a very candid one-on-one discussion with our brother, and many of you have been responding favorably to what Brother James has been saying as he talks about his work with high-profile clients, understanding the systems of both entertainment and social justice, and so much more. Karen, my sister, checking in. Karen Connor, you said 100% true. Celebrities are under scrutiny more now than ever. One wrong word, video, or post, and you risk blacklisting and or your personal insurance is subject to reduced coverage or cancellation. I like how you put that, Karen. I like how you put that. Your personal coverage. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for checking in, Karen. Good to hear from you. Keith, my man Keith Smith, you said, if you're better than someone, why would you oppress them unless they don't know they are better or equal? Great question there, Keith. I like that.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Brother Jay.
Do you feel the movie Malcolm X was better because Denzel? Would the movie have been better or worse if Denzel got an Oscar for it? Does that change you watching Malcolm X? No. It's still a great movie. It's one of the greatest pieces of acting we've ever seen.
Look, the Oscar thing, I think the Oscar thing was just big. Like you mentioned, in context, it's the time, right? Like, and the 80s and 90s. I grew up, I'm a baby, the 80s and 90s. When I grew up in the 80s and 90s, that was the time where having that level of validation was important. But the culture was also different too.
Right.
So you're talking about 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the culture was different. Now, you don't, and I'm right there with you, brother. You don't need to have that validation. Your art speaks for yourself. Your athleticism speaks for itself. It's like saying, well, so-and-so never got a ring. That doesn't mean that they're less champion.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You can think about, we can say Charles Barkley never got a ring, or this person and that person, and it's like, that doesn't matter. I mean, and I get it. Like, for athletes, some people say, well, that's the purpose of it. No, athletes, they want to be champion. They want to have a Super Bowl ring or that ring. But at the end of the day, they may never get a ring, but that doesn't take away from their championship skill and talent.
Exactly.
So I think that holds true. And I think a lot of these, like whether you're talking about the Academy, you're talking about the Hollywood Foreign Press, they are being forced now to have to evolve because they, for many years, you said it, for many years, they dictated the culture.
And see, I wouldn't even want an award from you if you told me the culture had no black people on your staff and you've never honored any black folks with anything, but you're being forced now by public pressure, and now all of a sudden I'm nominated or you want me to come present. I don't know if I would want to be a part of that party. And I know there's some people say, well, you got to work, you got to make change by working with them. But I'm kind of like a middle finger up guy sometimes. Like, no, I'm good. I love it. I don't want to be forced to be. That's almost like white law firms that hire black associates when they know they're never going to make them a partner. If you look at the city of Hartford, the black partners in Hartford are the same number it was in 1995 when I first got there. And I challenged all the white law firms to really, really commit to developing black lawyers to become black partners, and nobody was doing that. Now you got in New York a movement where some of the corporate clients are saying, we're not going to use you as a law firm if you don't have some black lawyers and black partners. So now there's a little bit of movement to get black lawyers and partners at big firms. But for years, the numbers are the same. James is the only black partner at so-and-so big mega white law firm. Out of 200 partners, they got 2 black partners or 1 black partner. That's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous.
You know what? I'm so happy to say that, and we got only a few moments left, Brother James, so I'm eternally grateful for your time today. And I was going to ask you, how do we take a brother like yourself? You got other, fantastic black legal representatives out there. How do we make sure that we use the law for our benefit, not on the other side of it, but, to weaponize it to really work for us at this point?
Oh, I think the great work that Ben Crump is doing, the great work that the Innocence Project is doing. There's so many great work that Tamika Mallory does. Of course, Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition and Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network. These organizations are in the trenches. They're understanding the legal battles and they're pulling in the attorneys. So to your question, we have to continue to do that work that Thurgood Marshall started in the basement of Howard Law School. My alma mater.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because very quickly, Brother James, people think that, and I had to check myself, because at first I was like thinking about, when I'm talking about Ben Crump, people don't understand the role that he plays. And, some people say, man, he's on all of these big cases. He's always out there. Why is that, right? Like, it's folks in my culture crew say, is he the only black attorney in America? But then he does play a role. Is that correct?
Well, let me say, first of all, Ben has a whole team of lawyers working with him. He's the face, but like we do on the music side, I have 40 lawyers working with me. You see me on these kind of shows, but if an issue goes down in Mississippi or Detroit or LA or New York or Atlanta, I can press the phone and have 5 or 10 lawyers in any of those markets helping me file a complaint. So it isn't just Ben Crump doing it. You see Ben as the face, you see me as the face on the entertainment law side, but just like our Broadway productions, we got 10, 15 producers, but you might see one of us out front on Piano Lesson. You might see one of us out front as Ben Crump, but don't think it's only Ben. Ben is helping provide jobs for a lot of Black attorneys, and there are a lot of Black attorneys, male and female and white attorneys, who are helping push the envelope of making sure we clean up these police departments and making sure our civil rights are protected. My role in it is to bring the music side to it. So if Ben or any of these guys out there need support from us, my civil rights is making sure Black artists are protected in the music industry and making sure we're not getting beaten down, figuratively speaking, financially or contract-wise. That's my role. That's kind of my civil rights, to protect us in the arts, because Blacks dominate in the arts. So we got to have somebody over there protecting us from ourselves. And we got guys like these 5 police officers. We got guys like them on the inside of these record labels and on the inside of these film and TV companies who are signing our people to bad contracts. These record labels ain't going in the hood. They sending one of us to go in the hood and find the next 50 Cent or the next Lil Baby or the next Lil Yachty or the next Nicki Minaj. And that person is putting my client in a horrible contract. So the client comes to me 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, 10 million records sold. I'm only making 2 cents a record. I'm never going to recoup, James. And I have to then step in and get them out of a bad contract.
I love how you said that. That's your civil rights. That's your contribution. Man, oh man, brother, I cannot thank you enough for your time. My culture crew says, Farajii, you got to bring this brother back. We got to talk some more. And you know, I'm glad that you kind of laid out just the groundwork for us to understanding your work. We know that very quickly. I want to get this in very quickly. You are producing the Piano Lesson. Talk to us about that project.
Yeah, we just wrapped up the highest grossing play on Broadway of the August Wilson franchise, The Piano Lesson. Now we go to London with the Temptations play, Ain't Too Proud. My partner also has MJ the Musical. My partner Leah also has Mandela over in London. And we also have a museum of Broadway at Times Square. So Black folks are really, really getting involved with Broadway. And we're out here just really, really making sure we are a part of that system and making sure we have quality content that reflects our people in a positive light. This is the most Black plays you've ever seen on Broadway. Wendell Pierce in Death of a Salesman, Miles Frost in MJ the Musical, Sam Jackson, John David in Piano Lesson, all of the people in Ain't Too Proud, the brother from Hamilton in Mandela, and Common just opened up Riverside, the Riverside play with Common in it. I may have the name though. Oh, and Yaya and Corey Hawkins in Top Dog Underdog.
Wow.
These are the most Black plays we've had on Broadway in a long time, where we got 6 or 7 Black plays up. And I'm encouraging everybody to support them so that we can maintain all of these producers who are spending millions and millions of dollars to get a play open on Broadway. You're talking $5, $10, $15 million to get a play open on Broadway. It is not cheap, but we've been fortunate. The Piano Lesson wrapped up and did very well. And we hope one day, you know, to bring it hopefully overseas, if that's the vision of our lead producer, Brian Moreland. I hope to see it overseas one day.
Brother James, I am so grateful again. Thank you so much. You're doing so much for the culture. You're doing so much for artists. You're doing so much for a lot of people across the board, but definitely for artists and creatives. It's more brothers like you that we want to have and need to have in the spaces, so that way we can get the creativity out. We can tell our story, and most importantly, gets what's owed to us. So I thank you so much, Brother James, and I look forward to reconnecting with you very soon. Thank you, brother.
No, thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be on the show, and thank Roland Martin for this network. That's my frat brother. He's the epitome of what A5A is all about. So
there it is, my brother. Thank you so much. Attorney James Walker, check it in, folks. Entertainment lawyer, Broadway producer, and so much more. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us today. I thank each and every one of you for being part of the conversation. Did y'all enjoy that? Oh my gosh. Especially on the heels of what we shared with you in the first hour about Tyre Nichols, so much, man. So I just thank y'all so much for tuning in today and being a part of the conversation. I want to thank my team, my man, King Keenan. I want to thank Joel. I want to thank Ariel. I want to thank my control room, everyone for making today's show happen here on the Black Star Network. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. Continue to support us. BlackStarNetwork.com is the website. Go to the website today. Download the app for free on all of your devices. Support us financially as we continue to build this platform for a digital Black media movement that we have going. Vote for RMU so that can be the choice for the NAACP award, folks. We want you to vote for RMU. 4 years they've been on, RMU has been on the air. It is the starting point for Black Star Network. It is the father. It is the trailblazer for Black Star Network. So make sure y'all go out and vote for RMU for the NAACP award. That's going to do it for me. Stay tuned. Up next is RMU Thursday night. Y'all know how they get down on Thursday night. Dr. Carl Reese, Erica, man, y'all know that they're going to go in tonight. So make sure y'all tune in for that. But as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a great afternoon and evening, family. Talk to you soon. Peace.